Speaking of scientists, we have two rock star guests who are joining me today. We have Dylan Mendes, who is a senior application developer for NASA's Fire Information for Resource Management System, also known as FIRMS for short. We also have Jenny Hewson joining us today, who is NASA's Lance Outreach and Implementation Manager. Dylan and Jenny, I just wanted to thank you both so much for taking time out of your very busy schedules to talk with me today. How are you both doing today?
Doing well.
I too am doing well. Thank you, Jason.
Awesome. Well, and I think as we can all agree, it is a great day at SSAI. Am I correct?
Yes, that's it.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Well, what I wanted to do, Jenny and Dylan, was I wanted to ask you both some questions in relation to your work that you have done at SSAI so far, and also discuss about how it relates to your work with the ongoing California wildfires that have been going on. As we all very well know, it's been very tragic to see what has been going on out in California for these last few weeks, but we're definitely very excited to hear about the data that has been collected and some of the challenges that have resulted in you getting some of this data. So my very first question I wanted to ask you both was, can you share a bit about yourself and the work you do at SSAI, particularly in regards to your role in NASA's Fire Information for Resource Management System, or FIRMS, and the ongoing California wildfires? Dylan, would you mind kicking us off?
Yeah, no problem. So mainly as a senior application developer, I support the futures of firms. I'm developing new technologies that we see fit for the coming year. I also pay close attention to the systems during high traffic events, like when the California wildfires started, we had a huge influx of users, so we were paying attention to the speed of the website, the databases, making sure everything was running smoothly and nothing went down. I'm also answering help tickets from concerned people about the California wildfires, trying to help them as best as possible. In that, I will have to explain to some of the users the nuances of the satellite data and our algorithms that generate the fire data that we use and the burned area and other such data sets. That's a bit about what I do to support firms and the California wildfires.
Awesome, Dylan. Thanks so much for sharing that. And just out of curiosity, in terms of, you mentioned you have responded to help tickets that have come in. How many help tickets have you answered, or do you not have a number as of now?
Don't really have a number, but there's probably about 10 or so that I answered myself from the help desk that we run.
Oh, very interesting. And is that just from SSAI employees? Is that NASA? Is that external? Or where are these tickets coming from?
These tickets come from the feedback module on the firm's website, so it could be any user from all around the globe. Typically, we do get users from all around the globe submitting their queries to us. But for the California wildfires, it was a lot of people in the LA and surrounding areas that were reaching out to see what they could do to see the California wildfires on our systems.
Absolutely. Well, that's great to hear, and I appreciate you diving more deeper in regards to your work and your role, and in terms of answering questions for our audience, because I know that there's been several questions over these last couple of weeks now. So thank you so much, Dylan, for that information. Jenny, I'm going to transition over to you. Can you share a bit about yourself and the work you do at SSAI, particularly in regards to your role in NASA's Fire Information for Resource Management System, or FIRMS, and the ongoing California wildfires?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Well, as you mentioned, I'm the Outreach and Implementation Manager for NASA's LANCE, and LANCE stands for the Land Atmosphere Near Real-Time Capability for Earth Observation. Now, this sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but LANCE is actually, it's a very interesting system. FIRMS sits within LANCE, and LANCE actually it's considered a distributed network. And so we work with different NASA centers to make the science data and information available very quickly to everyone and anybody. From the time that a satellite goes over a spot on the Earth, the data has to be made available in less than 3 hours to the user, which is really quick. And in fact, we have some data that is available in under 5 minutes, which is absolutely phenomenal. This type of speediness is really important for what are called time-sensitive applications, and wildfires fit into this category because decision makers need the information really quickly to be able to respond to fires. The wildfire system, as Dylan mentioned, becomes incredibly important when there are wildfires because there are so many different people who help with wildfire management and wildfire monitoring. The system's used, for example, by the US Forest Service, by the National Interagency Fire Center, really to monitor how the fires are moving, and so they can then manage them. It's also used by provincial governments throughout Canada, particularly in remote locations where there aren't people to report fires. And it's used by national governments in other countries, for example, Thailand. It's even used by local citizens who rely on the information to understand how near a wildfire is to their home or to the home of a family member, for example. So as Dylan has mentioned, when there are big wildfire events, we all become incredibly busy.
Indeed, absolutely. And I was going to say, since I've definitely seen lots of reports on the news about, how they've spread, and especially with how fast the winds were, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny and Dylan, but I saw that at first there were like wind gusts up in California to like 80 or even 100 miles per hour. Does that sound accurate?
Yes, there was some amazingly fast wind, and that certainly impacted the wildfires.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to hear, that the winds have died down, and that's great to hear that the data that has been collected so far definitely has been released and available at a good time, because especially for this natural disaster that has occurred out in California, unfortunately, you definitely want to make people aware and you want to keep them safe. So that was very informational, Jenny, and I appreciate you sharing more about your role at SSAI and how your work has contributed to the ongoing California wildfires. With that, I next wanted to transition on to another question that I had, and Dylan, this was going to be directed towards you. You mentioned your role as a senior application developer, and I just wanted to ask, how has your expertise contributed to supporting the California wildfires? And can you share how the applications or tools you've developed have helped in data access, data analysis, and even understanding the wildfire impacts?
Yeah, so as a senior application developer, I developed the firm site trying to keep it as robust and as usable as possible for every user that we could possibly reach. My previous work in satellite oceanography, I built an extensive knowledge of satellite detections. I'm by no means an expert, but I've learned some things about the science behind the algorithms and the data that we deliver, and the needs that go into all of those facets.
That's great to hear, Dylan. And I was going to say, since you mentioned that you work on the firm's website, do you have other colleagues of yours that also work with you, or is it like just you that does like a lot of the work with maintaining the website?
I'm a newer member of the team, so definitely not just me. There are other developers who contribute just as much, if not way more than I do. And it wouldn't be possible without all of us.
Yeah. Absolutely, indeed. Well, that's great to hear, and I appreciate you explaining a little bit more about how you've been able to make the data access readily available for our audience and our viewers in relation to the California wildfires. So thank you for going into that detail. My next question I wanted to ask was, and Jenny, this was going to be directed towards you. You mentioned that your position was NASA's Lance Outreach and Implementation Manager. And my question is, can you share insights into your role in providing data and information for a range of different users monitoring the California wildfires? And what are some of the biggest challenges you've encountered in this work? And how have you approached solving them to ensure the most robust and impactful results are there and available?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So FIRMS is actually the main system that we have for wildfires. And I think of FIRMS as kind of a system of systems, that it has an interactive map that users can explore. It also has a lot of data kind of on it's called the backend services and data, and users can pull the data into their own systems. Maybe they have a GIS or another app that they pull the data into. But as far as the challenges, as Dylan mentioned, he is one of the developers. We're actually a really small team. We're a very nimble team. It does mean that when we have these big events, we we're all kind of bouncing around doing a number of different things. And in fact, firms during major wildfire events can be the #1 most visited NASA site of the top 30 NASA sites. So that means there is a lot of interest in firms. As Dylan mentioned, during these times, we get a lot of questions from users. These can be from federal agency workers, from members of the public, from a whole host of different people. So we interact with them to help them understand kind of what the fire detections can and cannot do, what the satellites can and cannot see. And this really shows kind of the impacts of firms and how it supports users. I want to give a little bit more information, because it's important to understand that there are different types of satellites and they all have different strengths and different limitations. There's one particular type of satellite that continually looks at the same location of the Earth, and it provides information about every 15 minutes. So this is excellent for wildfires that are moving very quickly. We have what are called the active fire detections from these satellites available in firms. However, these satellites have what are called a coarse spatial resolution, which sounds complicated, but essentially it means that they collect all of the information over a large area and they pop it into 2 kilometer square, right? So that's all that information in one 2 kilometer square. So if there's a wildfire anywhere in that square, that whole square looks like it's on fire. And this can be a problem if users are not familiar with the data. So we often we have to explain that to users to make sure that they can get the most out of the data. We also have other satellites. These are called polar orbiting satellites. And these actually pass the same location on the Earth approximately 2 times a day, once during the day and once during the night. So if a wildfire were to start after the daytime pass, it wouldn't be seen by the satellite until the night. And so it looks like there isn't a wildfire event, but in fact, there is. It's just the satellite had already gone over. Another consideration are clouds. Clouds can be very problematic because the satellites can't see through the clouds to detect the wildfires underneath. And so again, for users, it can look like there aren't wildfires, but in fact, the satellites just can't see them. And then thick smoke can also be a problem in that the satellites, if the smoke is thick enough, they cannot see through that either. So these are some of the challenges, but it's great to be working on firms, because the active fire detections that are available in firms are created by a number of scientists who really work tirelessly to ensure the data are robust, they're validated, they're as accurate as possible, and that is very helpful for users to know that the data that they're using is as good as it can be.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Absolutely. Well, Jenny, I really appreciate your in-depth analysis, and I like how you discussed the different kinds of satellites that we have, because, you know, some of that terminology I wasn't as familiar with. So it's definitely good to know, and, you know, definitely with the clouds and some of the smoke that have come from the wildfires as well, that definitely can present a lot of challenges. And for those of you audience and viewers who are currently listening to this podcast episode, we definitely will be providing links for you all to check out the firm's website. So please definitely click on the links in the YouTube description of this video for more details and more information. So again, Jenny, thank you so much for explaining all of that. And on that note, what I also wanted to ask you both was, in terms of my final question, based on your work at SSAI, Dylan and Jenny, and the advancements that we have made, how do you anticipate the California wildfires will impact satellite data in the future? And what steps do you think will be critical to ensure we continue to gather accurate and actionable insights? Jenny, would you mind kicking us off with that question?
Yeah, thanks for that, Jason. So this is a really interesting question, actually, and I think that the best and most accurate satellite data that is currently available has certainly helped inform the wildfires in California. I also know that it's a very very kind of dynamic time in wildfire science and wildfire monitoring and management. And there are a few reasons for this, that the wildfire season is getting longer. The characteristics, the sizes of wildfires are certainly changing. And increasingly, there's new research available so that more and more can be extracted in terms of information from the satellites to help monitor wildfires. And there are also a number of wildfire-specific satellites that are planned to launch in the next few years, from constellations of kind of small satellites to bigger satellites. And these will really further help wildfire managers, firefighters, researchers, the general public, so that ultimately there will be more and more information available to support users on wildfire monitoring and management.
Wow, that's exciting to hear about, you know, some future satellites that are going to go up. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that and, you know, seeing them go up and seeing that additional data come through. So thank you so much for sharing that, Jenny. So we definitely will keep you all posted about that for sure. Dylan, I wanted to get your thoughts. How do you anticipate the California wildfires will impact satellite data in the future? And what steps do you think will be critical to ensure we continue to gather accurate and actionable insights?
Yeah, so I think the California wildfires presented a unique opportunity for growth and learning, as does every wildfire season in the satellite fire recognition space. At least on the development side, we are considering exactly how we could be able to support more and more users as our user base continues to grow. And as Jenny mentioned, it's one of NASA's top websites during these wildfire events. So it is very important to be able to support all of these users with a fast website and being able to handle all of these requests so that we can continue to accomplish the goals that we would like to see and deliver the most timely information to our users and our governmental partners. And I just wanted to say, it's not every day that a new satellite goes into the sky. So we do have somewhat limited resources to work with, although we do like to partner with some similar governmental organizations like the Forest Service to help improve our systems for as many users as possible.
That's great to hear, Dylan, about the partnerships that you have forged. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, and I like the point that you mentioned as well that this is a learning experience, especially every wildfire season is a learning experience. It's unfortunate that it happens, but we can definitely, with great data, we can learn how best to prevent it, and that's what you both and your team with firms are currently doing. So it's all greatly appreciated. So thank you so much, Jenny and Dylan, for sharing your thoughts on that question. With that, Jenny and Dylan, again, I just wanted to thank you both so much for taking time out of your very busy schedules to talk with me today. You both are truly rock stars who are really making an impact and a difference globally, and everybody around the world is going to be very fascinated by the continued data that we get from the California wildfires, and certainly in the future. We definitely hope that everybody who's listening, who might be out in California, is safe and also healthy as well. And please definitely, Jenny and Dylan, keep us informed about some exciting continued advancements that are going to come with firms and this data. We can't wait to highlight it.
Well, thank you from us, Jason, in allowing us to share firms and for this opportunity.
I echo exactly what Jenny said. Thank you for the opportunity. Always happy to inform more people.